Thank you, Council. We continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sise, you are also telling us about the rest of the documents you have, which you want admitted. You said you had...
Yes, in addition to what I have already submitted, I would like to submit the share certificates of the Gamtel Spectrum Partnership, as well as the new status certificates, that is Gamtel Gambia Ports Authority.
Okay, you have them. The Gamtel Spectrum Partnership share certificates.
Yes.
Do you mean the share certificates issued to Gamtel?
Yeah.
Or to Gambia government, or to Spectrum? Who are the certificates issued to?
No. Spectrum, as I said earlier, is 50%, Gambia government 50%. So the share certificates are in the name of the government of the Republic of the Gambia, represented by the Department of State for Finance and Economic Affairs. Okay. The second certificate is in the name of Spectrum International Investment Holding, SAL.
These are copies?
Yeah, these are photocopies.
I presume the original is still with Spectrum, or did Spectrum surrender the original when
No, I have the originals.
You have the originals?
Yes, I have the originals.
So they must have surrendered them?
Yes, I have the originals.
But this is a copy of the originals that you have?
Yes, these are copies of the originals.
All right, let's have them.
As well as the new certificate for Gambia Ports Authority and Gambia government, again represented by Ministry of Finance.
Okay. Is that all, Mr. Sise?
In addition, I have a letter from the Attorney General's chambers, written on behalf of the Solicitor General and Legal Secretary by Kimben Tita. He was the legal officer regularizing the status of Gamtel and Gamcel. So when he was ready, he submitted the articles together with the certificates to Gamtel through a letter, and this is a copy of that letter.
All right, we'll add it to your document. Yeah. If you have anything else, kindly hand it over so that...
Yes. I don't know whether it would be of interest to the Commission, because when we wanted to regularize the new status of Gamtel, we were asked to search for a partner, preferably a public enterprise. So we engaged Gambia Ports Authority and they accepted. So these are letters in respect of that. The letter we wrote to OP and their response to us, endorsing our suggestion.
All right. All right. Collect the copies. Those are the final copies of the letters that you have. Otherwise, she'll be moving up and down. Okay, thank you.
So I'll bring the memorandum and articles of the Gamtel Spectrum. One. It is in the office. I'm sure it's there. I'll get a copy and bring it.
Certainly. If it's there, we would like to see a copy. You're referring to...
The memorandum and articles between Gamtel and Spectrum.
Gamtel
and the partnership memorandum and articles.
Are you saying the memorandum and articles were changed? The ones that you submitted were signed by Spectrum?
Yes, the ones I have that is signed by Spectrum and
Gambia government.
Yeah, Gambia government. That is the memorandum and articles.
Yes.
Yeah, that must be in the office. I'll bring it.
No, what I'm saying is you've submitted one already in 2008, signed by Gambia government and Spectrum. Are you referring to something else?
No. If that is one, then I think it's... Yeah.
Can you show the witness
yes, show me that
exhibit?
I can remember packing all these things day before yesterday. Let me just see.
Can you show the witness this memorandum and articles? dated in 2008,
Okay.
no date, no month, but signed by the Permanent Secretary Finance 50% and Director Spectrum International 50%. This is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that is the one I'm referring to.
You've already tendered it.
Okay,
Thank
then
you.
it's submitted.
Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted documents relating, statutory documents relating to Gambia Telecommunications Cellular Company Limited, otherwise known as GAMCEL, including share certificate, copies of share certificates. No. May I separately have admitted share certificates issued to the government of the Gambia dated 27 March 2008 and also dated 30th July 2014, I presume when the situation was regularized, together with correspondence between the Attorney General and the Office of the President, as well as between the Office of the President and GAMTEL.
duplicate? Okay. documents of incorporation of GAMCEL, to wit, A, Memorandum and Articles of Association of GAMCEL, undated. B, amended Memorandum and Articles of Association of GAMCEL, dated 14th March 2016. Admitted mark SC 65A. The following share certificates, to wit, issued to the government of the Gambia on 27th March 2008. That's A. B, issued to Spectrum International Investment Holding, SAL, on 27th March 2008. C, issued to government on 30th July 2014. D, issued to Gambia Ports Authority on 30th July 2014. Admitted mark SC 65B. Correspondence between Attorney General's Chambers and the Managing Director, GAMCEL, for the period 12 May 2014 to 31st July 2014, regularization of the corporate status of GAMCEL is admitted mark SC 65C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions for Mr. Sisi.
Thank you, Mr. Sisi. You may leave.
Thank you, sir.
I call Mr. Mustafa Maron.
Who is called?
Mustafa Maron.
Maron. Mustafa.
You can read after me, sir. I swear by the Almighty Allah.
I swear by the Almighty Allah.
That the evidence I shall give to this commission.
Evidence I shall give in this court.
This
commission.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So help me Allah.
You can wait for further instruction.
Could you kindly state your names, Mr. Marong, before you sit down? Could you state your names, please? Go back to the mic.
My name is Mustafa Landin Marong.
Okay. That's your Mustafa?
Landing Marong.
Where do you live?
I stay in Banjul, Tobacco Road.
What work do you do at the moment?
I'm now the Director General of the Gambia Maritime Administration.
Before that, you held offices in government, central
Indeed.
government?
Yes, I did work for the central government from 1981 as probation officer, Department of Social Welfare, after my studies from the United States.
Did you hold office in the Ministry of Justice as Attorney General?
As Attorney General, yes, I did hold office.
During what period?
95 March to January 1996.
Would you like to sit down?
Indeed.
Mr. Marong, you were someone with regard to a loan
Yes.
that was contracted by the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council
Yes.
on behalf of the government of the Gambia from the Republic of Taiwan,
Indeed.
from the Republic of China on Taiwan. Now, what do you know about this loan and what happened subsequently?
Well, my recollection is that sometime in either April or March or April 1995, I believe it was on a Friday after a cabinet session, I was coming down the stairs to go to the courtyard of the State House to go to my vehicle when the spokesperson at the time, Mr. Ibujalo, called my attention. And I stood, I waited for him, and he brought out some document, I cannot remember now, but I believe it was an intent to raise a loan, and that he told me that he was supposed to travel back to Taiwan that very evening, and he did express some urgency over the matter. I had requested him what was the document all about, because I did ask that I should have it to take it to the Justice Department so that I could discuss it with the Solicitor General at the time, Howard Cruz Cisse. But he did express that time was of the essence, and that the chairman at the time of the FPRC was very anxious over this whole issue. So I asked him what was it. He said it was for a loan, and that the FPRC could not contract loans from any other country, and even the Taiwanese government was not willing to give them loans, and that they could only partner them with private businesses, and that there is this Export-Import Bank of Taiwan, of Taipei, that was willing to loan the FPRC some money. But he didn't tell me the quantum, the amount at the time. And that what the bank, according to him, what the bank wanted to know at the time was whether the FPRC was competent to enter into a loan agreement with them, as whether FPRC was competent to enter into a loan agreement in the name of the Gambia. That was basically what that document was all about. So I didn't have time to read it, so I signed it. Then he left for Taiwan. And that was all I knew about the loan. There was no staff from the Justice Department who was part of the negotiations or signing of the loan. It was when I left office, I think I came to know about that there was some money given to the country, and that Captain Ibu Jallo absconded with some $3 million. That was the time I came to know that there was a loan, in fact, given to the government. I also realized that the finance minister at the time was not involved in the negotiations. Neither was the foreign ministry. There was no correspondence sent to the Justice Department seeking advice whether this loan should be contracted or not, to see the terms, whether it's prejudicial. So my knowledge about the loan ends when I did indicate that the FPRC is competent to contract loans in the name of the Gambia. But whether the loan, how it was negotiated, how much was disbursed, nobody at the Justice Department could tell.
You are a member of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council?
I was
General.
member of council, myself and the late Koro Sise. We are the two civilians serving on both council and cabinet.
The issue of this loan that was being borrowed, it was never reported at any council meeting?
I don't remember. It was never an agenda item ever brought before council. I don't remember. I don't remember. And when the loan was granted, it was never brought to council's knowledge or cabinet that this amount of money was loaned to the country.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Marong. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Marong.
Very well. You may leave. You may go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I recall Mr. Usman Jammeh.
Usman Jammeh.
Sir, you can have a seat. You can have a seat, sir. Would like to remind you that you're still on the oath. So, we would like to remind you, sir, that you're still on the oath.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jame,
Yes,
you were summoned this time in relation to Gamtel and the sale by the government of the Gambia of 50% of its shares to Spectrum, a company called Spectrum International Investment Holding, SAL. Could you remind us again of the period you were Secretary General? Could you remind us of the period during which you were Secretary General?
Okay. I was Secretary General from March 2007 to September 2000 to May 2008.
March 2007 to?
Yes, I was first Secretary General from March 2007 to May 2008. And again in May 2011 to December 2011.
Did you participate in the transactions relating to the sale of the 50% shares by Gambia government to Spectrum International?
Can you repeat the question because it's echoing?
Did you participate in the transaction for the sale of the shares by Gambia government?
No, what I can say is that I was present when the so-called investors made a presentation to the former president.
You call them the so-called investors. Why?
No, because, I mean, if you know my background, I've always been resisting the divesture of any interest in Gamtel. Even
Sorry, you have to speak up a little. I can't hear what you're saying.
I was saying that, even before becoming Secretary General, I have actually believed so much in the fact that, a very important public enterprise like Gamcel need not be divested, because at some point, through a local Gambian management system, we had Gamtel becoming one of the best in Africa and second only to South Africa. And that was during the management of Bakari Njai. So I have always expressed concern about, opening up to private sector to come in to take shares from Gamtel. My preference will be for the investors to set up their own system and leave the Gamtel alone. Yeah.
That may well be so, but that does not explain why you refer to them as so-called investors. When you said you met the so-called investors, what do you mean?
This one I was actually referring to the Spectrum company, because the way they went about the acquisition of the shares.
Okay, could you explain to us? Meanwhile, I'll give you Exhibit MS-147 A, B, and C. Exhibit 147A is the Master Share Purchase Agreement between Gambia government and Spectrum. Exhibit 147B is the Shareholders Agreement between the government and Spectrum as well. And Exhibit C is the completion sale document. And of course, there is another one, Exhibit MS-147D, disclosure letter. I'll give you these documents. Now, you said Spectrum
Yeah,
were the investors. How did you meet them?
The first time I met them, I was calling to the office of the former president, and then they made a presentation to him on how they can really help improve the performance of Gamtel.
Who were they? Who represented Spectrum?
Well, I cannot remember the name of the individuals, but I mean, they were actually representing Spectrum. And I know, of course, Mr. Basi was somebody behind them also. Because I
Sorry,
think,
I'm barely able to hear you.
Yeah, okay, I'm saying that, I'm aware that Mr. Basi was behind them as well.
Okay, how did you know that? How were you aware that Mr. Bazi was behind them?
No, but because he mentioned them. He mentioned that to me actually as Secretary General.
Was he present when they were doing their presentation?
That one I'm not quite sure since I'm on an oath, but I'm aware of a presentation that was done in the office of the President. I was there as Secretary General to witness this presentation. And this is where they have indicated how their management can ensure that, more monies are derived from Gamtel in terms of the revenues, given their expertise, and they made a lot of financial commitments in their presentation. So, I mean, but since I cannot influence anything there, I was just listening, but I was not quite comfortable in, as I said, from a long time ago, getting any private sector or any foreign private sector involved in the Gamtel.
Yes, you have said so.
Yes,
now,
I said so.
But when they made the presentation, what happened and what was your party?
Yeah, okay. Then later on, of course, I mean, when they indicated that they will be in a position to increase the revenues, government revenues from their own management of Gamtel. And I think that was what actually mainly convinced the former president that the management of Gamtel and the shares of Gamtel, they can also invest in acquiring at least half of the shares of Gamtel. And not only acquiring the shares of Gamtel, but also to be in charge of the management of Gamtel. And then later on, of course, I'm aware that, they came up with a contract which was supposed to be signed between them and the government. At first, I was approached to sign the document, and I told them that as Secretary General, that's their president preference for that document to be signed by the office of the president, because at that time people think that, if you have the support of the president, nobody else matters. But I told them that, there is a line ministry responsible for Gamtel. That's the best institution to append their signature on this particular contract. But of course, that was just verbal. There was no contract document presented before me. I think through their consultations, once I made that remark, we were invited to a signing ceremony at the office of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. And the minister responsible then for Gamtel was also there, and she was the one actually responsible for the signing of the contract. But before the signature, there was no privy, at least speaking for myself, I hadn't the opportunity to even see a copy of the draft contract. It's only when we went to finance, the document was presented to us. Then we requested that at least we take some moment to go through the document. So, when we went through the document, what was at the back of my mind was the presentation done at the Office of the President, indicating their financial commitments and how they are going to be, doing better than the current management, because those are key indicators that one need to be able to monitor them in terms of their performance. But to my surprise, some of those elements were missing in the contract document. So I brought the attention to the Spectrum representative at that moment to say that, but I recall in your presentation to the former, the president, that is the former president, you said you are going to do A, B, and C, and you are going to make certain payments, but these are not reflecting in the contract. And he told me, what he told me was, no, don't worry, Mr. Basi has taken care of that with the president. I said, no, this document cannot be signed until I go and verify with the president. Because these are, for me, that's a very important element in the contract. You have indicated, and I think that is what may have convinced the former president, that you can do better than the current management. And how do you show that? You must show that by your financial performance. So, if you don't include some of that in the contract, I had a problem with that. So I said, this cannot be signed. Since you say Mr. Basi has taken care of that with the president, let me go and verify. So I virtually stopped the signing ceremony. I went back to State House, and I went straight into the office of the president. I said, sir, but this Spectrum, the financial commitments that they have indicated in their presentation to you, they didn't reflect everything in the contract document that I saw in finance. What did he tell me? He told me, no, they must include everything there before they sign the document. So I felt elated, and I walked back to finance, and only to open the door and find them signing the document. So what do? I just have to keep my mouth shut and then entered and sat down and watched the signing ceremony go on. Because what that tells me is that, the moment perhaps I left his office, you must have informed them to go ahead. Don't mind about this SG coming to create problems. Just go ahead and sign. Because that's the only explanation I have. Otherwise, they would not go ahead and sign with those concerns that I have expressed. And I went to him, and he told me that it must be in the document. So once I opened and I saw them signing, I said, maybe he treated me, unfairly. So I just kept quiet. After the signing ceremony, I quietly went back to my office. I never contacted him. Nobody mentioned anything to me about this contract. Even he himself, he didn't ask me to find out, did they include everything? Because obviously he would not. His silence means that he must have informed, giving them the directive to go ahead, in spite of certain concerns that I have raised.
Mr. Jame, you are the Secretary General, and if you had instructions from the President and you go back to the Ministry of Finance and saw something else, why didn't you raise it with the Minister for Finance or the Minister for Communications?
Yes, because I know that they would not have gone ahead to sign this without being told after I have left the President's office. Please go ahead and sign, don't mind the Secretary General.
So where was this agreement signed?
Hello?
Where was the agreement signed?
It was signed in the office of the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs.
The evidence before this commission is that neither the Minister of Finance nor the Minister of Communication, Mrs. Gay at the time, had a preview of this agreement, and the Attorney General's office was not involved.
Exactly, yeah.
You are confirming the same. Now, was it a normal thing to do at that?
Well, that's why I said initially the so-called investor, because I believe I have been trying to let him go through, let him get, so people who come to him with proposals to go through the normal channels. But sometimes in
this case, what would have been the normal channel?
No, in this case, the normal channels would have been, let them go and discuss with the line ministry and interact with also the Gamtel management, and a proposal can be discussed among them. The office of the president should not be the center for deciding on what investors should invest in what sector, And of course, in some instances, I do succeed. When people come with agricultural proposals, I said, sir, I advise these people to go to the Ministry of Agriculture. And sometimes he agrees, and we communicate to them put your proposals before the line ministry. We do encourage, I mean, as the office of the president, your interest in investing in agriculture, but please, discuss your proposals with the relevant line ministry, that is the Minister of Agriculture. Sometimes he will agree, but in this particular case, I think, in fact, the management of GAMTEL were not put in the picture. They were dealing at the higher level, the highest level for that matter.
Now, you were in the office of the president for a while, even before you became Secretary General. When did this practice of investors going directly to the office of the president start?
Oh, I cannot actually pinpoint a particular date and say this is when it started, but I mean, it has always been the case that many proposals, even dealing with sectors outside the office of the president, even, for example, energy proposals, they will send it to the office of the president. Normally, of course, correspondences to the office of the president is addressed to the Secretary General.
Are you saying that that's a practice you found there when you joined the office of the president?
Are
you saying that's a practice you found when you joined the office of the president?
Yes.
And this was in what year that you joined the office of the president, even before you became Secretary General?
Yes.
When was it the first time you joined the office of the president?
Oh, okay. I was there, as a permanent secretary. And that one is from September 2006 to March 2007.
Was this practice being perpetuated then? This practice of
proposals going to the office of the president?
Yes.
And also not just even written proposals. I mean, people will come, they'll be introduced to the president, and they'll be expressing their interest in a number of business enterprises, business ventures in the Gambia, even petroleum. I mean, most of the people who are interested even in investing in petroleum sector. But at the time, some of those portfolios were under his office, so you can understand that. So we are there also to assist in vetting some of these proposals.
When the portfolios were under his office?
Were actually moved to the office of the president. I don't like that because certainly, the office of the Secretary General is a very, very busy office, and if you take a portfolio from a minister and then bring it under the office of the president, it means more work for the office of the president. So I would rather, in fact, some of these portfolios be given to specific ministers to handle, actually.
Now, this practice of transferring portfolios, ministerial portfolios, to the office of the president, and why did it start? Because ministerial portfolios are expected by our constitution to be given to ministers of cabinet. Why were portfolios being transferred to the office of the president?
I'm not sure about the powers that he has under the constitution, but I think he is responsible for assigning portfolios to ministers.
Yes, that's
so. In that vein, also he can also decide some portion of the portfolio of a particular minister. He can reassign it to some other minister. He has been doing that. Even me, at one time, I was appointed a minister for...
Yes, I understand he's been doing that, and the constitution says he should appoint ministers.
Yes.
My question is why? Because the president himself, of course, he has executive powers. Can you hear me? Under the constitution, he's expected to appoint ministers and give them portfolios, and those ministers, would advise him or would exercise their powers under that portfolio according to the law. Why was the president transferring to himself? We see at one time he was Minister of Agriculture, at another time he was Minister of Energy and Petroleum and so forth, and telecommunications as well. Why would he think it necessary to add these portfolios to the office of the president?
It will be difficult for me to say why, because maybe he feels at that particular moment he needs to keep a finger on that particular portfolio, so to know. I mean, well, I think he's somebody also who feels that nobody can do anything better than him. So, so I mean, he has that feeling that, you know, if something is not working, then it should be under his office. Then he will make it work.
But you will agree that unless he is minister responsible for a portfolio, he ought not to be involved in investment matters relating to any portfolio. Do you agree?
Sorry, say it again.
Do you agree that unless he is also minister for a sector, he ought not to be responsible, he ought not to be involved in investments relating to that sector?
No, really, that should be the norm. And in fact, we already have an investment promotion agency, and left to me, that should be central, working with the sectors to properly ensure that, you know, we do the due diligence for, because I mean, not all investors are genuine, so you really have to go through background checks and all the rest of it, you know. So I mean, you hardly, you have the experts. So I think if they are there, my view is that you should use them, like the GIPSA and also the specific sectors where people are interested or investors are interested to invest in. So I believe, you know, I mean, it was not really prudent for investors to even approach that highest office. That should be the last resort, in my own personal view.
All right. Thank you. Now, were you in, you know, Spectrum's contract, management contract was terminated. They were subsequently terminated. The Spectrum International.
Sector?
Spectrum International.
Spectrum.
Yes, their contract was subsequently terminated.
Yeah.
Did you have any part to play in the termination?
No. Maybe at the time I was out of the office, but
by then you had left.
Yeah, I was not.
When Spectrum, when
but
the
I was not surprised, because I mean, if you don't do things properly, you later on come to discover the problems down the line.
Mr. Jame, you know, Spectrum were expected to pay 35 million. According to the central bank, the money that was received into the account was 32,437,008.008. That's it. 32,437,000. What happened to the 1.5?
No idea.
6 million.
I don't have any idea. I'm not
because
even
that
aware.
is missing.
I was not even privy to the fact that they have paid that amount of money into an account. You know. So.
We have found documents, one of them signed by yourself, instructing the Honorable Minister for Finance, that's SOS for Finance at the time, to make payments from the proceeds of the sale of the Gamtel shares. I'll give you one of the documents which was signed by yourself, instructing that the sum of 1.4 million be transferred.
Okay.
This is from Exhibit CB34, Mr. Chairman. Could you show Mr. Jame this document?
Yeah, I can confirm that this was actually signed by me. That's my signature.
Yes, so your instructions was it should be paid from the proceeds of the Gamtel share sale.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, the letter says I convey directives.
You were conveying directives.
Always from the head of state himself.
But you are aware that the money was paid into central bank then? You are aware that the proceeds were paid into central bank?
Yes, I was aware, yes. But as I said, you know, you were asking me what happened to the
yes.
the the shortfall
Yes.
between 35 and what was paid in us. That's what I'm saying, that I'm not aware. I don't know.
Oh, that's fine. This money was sent to 1.4 million to the embassy in Washington, and the records show that the records from the embassy show that part of those funds were for the purchase of buses, but there is a purchase which I would like you to explain if you can. It's for the purchase of, that's 150,000 for light, tower, metal, holiday lights, and so on. What was this for?
Well, okay, actually those were delivered, they came. They were delivered, they came, and they are used actually for, they're like floodlights. When you have events at night, that's where, they use them. And I remember, of course, when he was going on tours, in some places, I mean, it gets dark, but then these lights will be utilized to brighten the whole meeting venue. And I remember one time also at the, I don't know whether it's still called July 22nd Square, but McCarthy Square, former McCarthy Square. There was a night event there, and
those $150,000 worth of lights. All right, that's fine. We have the explanation.
Yeah.
Now, during the period you were Secretary General also, Dr. Njoguba, who were acting on your behalf, instructed that another sum, this time almost of $615,000 and $455,000 be sent to Washington again, and to one Dr. Huja Gas Jaitenjai, was also sent the sum of about $200,000 for what appears to be laboratory equipment, HIV kits from Siemens. Now, and it was addressed to, well, I suppose SOS, Department of Health. What do you know about this?
Well, when I was on this, I was not aware of it actually, but I want to explain further that even though as Secretary General, letters can be written to you on your behalf, and you may not be aware of that. Because he has the prerogative to call even the Secretary to Cabinet and give him directives. And he can write, if you are in town, or if you are, lucky, you can come across it in a running file, maybe a copy of the letter. But confidential, of course, there is also a confidential running file. So this is why perhaps you can inform yourself that, certain things have happened in your past while you are away.
So you are saying you are not aware of
it? You can also be in the office, and he can call the Secretary to Cabinet and give him directives, and you will not be aware.
So you are saying you are not aware of
No,
this?
no, that one I was not aware.
There is also a purchase of 20 crew cabs, which seem to be Nissan Titan, for altogether $615,000. 20 Nissan Titan vehicles. These seem to be minivans. Do you know anything about it?
No, what I can recall is, the letter that I wrote to Finance, there was an attachment to it,
Yes.
which is amounting to the figure that is mentioned here. And I think there was the issue of acquiring some buses, school buses.
Yes.
That I'm aware of.
What about the Nissan 20 crew cab? A 20 crew cab must be 20 passenger. Can you show him? Nissan Titan vehicles. And they came in 20 40-foot containers.
Okay.
Can you show him this? I don't think the Gambia government uses Nissan minibuses or Nissan 20 crew cabs. Were you aware of this?
No, I'm not aware of this.
Are you aware of the government importing Nissan Titan cabs during the time you were Secretary General?
I cannot recollect actually.
You cannot recollect?
No.
All right, thank you. Can you collect the documents?
I think this and that. Maybe
I don't have any further questions for Mr. Jami. We'll be calling you back on ROC, Mr. Jami. Grants and loans. I don't have any further questions.
You're done with him. Now, Council, before asking him questions regarding the executive interference in the contracts, did you gather evidence that Spectrum actually paid the full amount that was outstanding? The shortfall we are looking for.
We have not.
Do you have evidence that Spectrum has paid the sum?
We haven't found any evidence that Spectrum paid 35 million.
So it could be outstanding at their level.
It could be outstanding, or it could have been paid somewhere else.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's
what central bank accounts that they have given, they have summarized and added up the amounts that were received in tranches, and the total is $32,437,000 and $437,008. That's what they received into their account.
Okay. So it's either at the level of Spectrum, or we've received it and haven't found it. It's still unaccounted for. Now, Mr. Jami, the question we would like to ask is, following on from your submission, GIBSA exists.
Of course, yes.
They were there to help meet investors, do the due diligence before these investors even get to the level of the president. In many countries, if you ever get to see the president, it's for 5 minutes, courtesy, tell them your intention and get out. The opposite we had here. They would come in, they would discuss, and he was so involved in the negotiation. Now, as far as you can gather, did the ex-president benefit in any way financially, or do you have reason to believe he benefited from all these negotiations and meetings, and that was the principal reason he got involved, as opposed to perhaps your view that he just wanted control and wanted to know what's happening? To the best of your knowledge.
To the best of my knowledge, I believe that it's a question of having confidence and faith in officials, because I mean it gives me the impression that things get delayed. Somebody who is almost like an anti-delay president, So I mean he believes that investors, bona fide investors, will come, and the officials will derail the process. So I think that is probably one of the motivations why he gets himself involved. But I don't think that's even a good enough reason. I mean, like you just said, investors can have the opportunity to have a courtesy call on the president. And even that is high as far as I'm concerned. But there are sector ministers. I mean, if you appoint a minister, you expect them to perform. If they don't perform, you know what he has been doing to ministers. Today you are there, tomorrow you are gone, So if a minister is not performing, and a report comes to you that, I came up with a proposal which is in the interest of the country, and it was blocked at a particular ministry, you don't just jump, because that's something also I've been advising him. You don't just jump and then, act by firing a minister or dismissing an official. But you have to really carry out some investigation, get an investigation going on to get to the bottom of the facts before you take any action. But I mean, I think, the environment in which we were working then, even the ministers are aware that, if an investor comes wanting to invest in their sector, they have to take them seriously, because if they don't, the president that we had at the time had so many years, so he could get to know, and then you can be in trouble. So I don't believe that it's a genuine case to really ensure that all these investors go to the office of the president. rather than the respective sectors, for the mere fact that, the office of the president can act faster than them. That's my understanding.
So for you, it was more of efficiency, reasons of efficiency. It wasn't about financial benefit.
Financial benefits, I have I cannot really commit myself to that, because
Okay, on the side of efficiency, we do not know where the office of the president derive whatever experience or knowledge they use in these investment decisions. But from testimony submitted, every single case that we got resulted in terrible loss to the government.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know why they continued. Second, it was not just about reassigning portfolio. Even with the managing directors, they got feedback that if you do not play ball with these investors, you'll be punished. Some people got phone calls with the GPA, with the Social Security, with the last one, Gamcel or Gamtel. So it was like you either act in line with his expectation or you're out of favor.
Yeah.
So was that really about efficiency?
No, that shouldn't.
There had to be a bigger driving force.
Yeah, I think so. But then, I think it's not a very genuine situation actually for the way we were operating at that time, because like you said, if the managing director gets a phone call, you are almost tying his hands.
In the case of the ferries,
yeah,
the negotiating party was called and addressed as to them not cooperating. We know where the ferries ended. Terrible loss. Many cases.
Many cases.
So if it is about efficiency and control, the ex-president had the army, the police, the intelligence. He had full command of all those structures. So if it were about being a control freak, the submission of all those people to him was enough. But he took over agriculture, he took over every other thing where he was not an expert in. And his team, under the office of the president, were also not experts in. So I don't know how I can accept the submission that it was more about efficiency and it being done fast. So I'm just wondering, there was a bigger motivation. Does anybody know?
I just want to take the opportunity to buttress your point there, that the other thing is that, even if he is assigned a portfolio to his office, once there is a problem, one will expect that if you take leadership of any institution, you should be held responsible for that. But in this case, in his own case, if there is a problem, for example, NAWEC is on the office of the president, there is a problem within NAWEC, then the problem is not him as the Minister of Energy, but the officials. But if there is something that is successfully implemented, then he takes the credit. That's how I see it. But your gut feelings might be right. There may be other, considerations for him other than what I have said in terms of, getting things moving fast. Because also I'm a Gambian. I've been listening to what is coming out of this, how do you call it, this honorable commission, and I realized that there has been certain financial benefits due to him, because people have made testimonies here that certain amounts of money, this is related to some kind of business that were being operated, monies were paid to him. But I wouldn't have the evidence unless I hear it from people who have given testimony here. So, but my perception at the time was that it's just because he wants he's the super action man, so he wants everything to move fast. That's why certain portfolios are brought on ice.
Just a few minutes ago, we read a letter. Yeah, there was a planned purchase of a Boeing. The decision was reversed. The letter says, credit the money to KGI. which part of patriotism, which part of efficient running of a government was that? KGI? That was not even a public corporation.
That's right.
1.6 million?
Yeah.
So as SG, you do not go beyond taking orders or advising on the side. You do not find out on the side what is happening. What motivated all those decisions? Or would that have been too far?
No, it probably may not be too far. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, the workload, because of his interest in many things, every letter has to be minuted to him. Of course, I don't do all the minutes, but I have also staff under me who will do. But all minutes will be passed through me before it gets to him. So that alone, in fact, is a major workload. I used to carry backloads of files to my house after work. At night, I'll be working. You know, so the workload probably will not permit you to be unduly investigating what was going on. Because I mean, certain information you might not even know. You might not even know that certain things existed. So you would not have a lead actually. Yeah.
So the conclusion is there was no transparency in the way things were done. And you can disagree. As early as 1995, 1996, even under the military government, even in council, before you came, somebody just testified that certain matters were not even brought to the council. Well, as far as he was concerned, as a civilian member, it was never discussed. So this whole thing about transparency, accountability, as early as 1995, there was financial mismanagement. As early as 1996.
Yes, I've also been following even the newspapers. I mean, sometimes it's unbelievable for a council member to say that he's not even aware about certain decisions that were supposed to be taken by council. So I think the issue of accountability and transparency was a political jargon, but it was in reality.
Sorry? They were just jargons?
Political jargons.
Okay.
But in reality, it's a facade because, I mean, from what is being uncovered now, I mean, there are deficiencies in the transparencies, and I can attest to that. For example, I said, you know, I mean, even as Secretary General, you don't know everything that is going on within your own office. If he has the powers to call your subordinates and give them direct, instructions to carry out A, B, and Z, unless it's the goodwill on the part of those officers to come and inform you, but you might not even know about what was going on.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've just been told that this letter that was identified by Mr. Jame as signed by him dated 13 December 2007 has not been admitted. So I'll just admit it now. In relation to the second divestiture account. Mr. Chairman, I'm applying for it to be tendered as part of Exhibit SC 60. Exhibit SC 62B, maybe. As we have Exhibit SC 62, which is the bundle tendered by Mrs. Jaite, Tenengba Jaite. If we can mark that Exhibit SC 62B, because it's part of that series, actually, but it was signed by him instead of Mrs. Jaite. Can you show me, Chairman?
Letter reference PR stroke C102 stroke volume 2 bracket 57 dated 13th December 2007 from Secretary General, Office of the President, to the Minister of Finance. Urgent request for transfer of funds to the Gambia Washington Embassy. Admitted mark MS 154. 154. Let's see.
Oh.
What is it about? Order.
Yes, I had applied for it to form part of SC 62. So as SC 62B.
What this is
inclusion into SC 62B. She's applying
this exhibit 62. This is SC 62.
This is already 62.
Yeah.
So what does she want included?
Well, that's what I want to know.
Can you clarify, please?
SC 62B are the series of instructions from the Office of the President to SOS Balagi. And this letter now being tendered is part of that series, but it was signed by him as Secretary General instead of Tenengba Jaite.
So you want it amalgamated?
Yes, but attached as B instead of amalgamated to 62 itself.
That means we have to
For-
relabel it. We've already labeled it MS. Now
As
we have to
62B.
relabel it as SC.
62B.
Please bring it back. So she wants this included here.
Yes.
Almost 154 attached to it. They are not marked yet. Can you mark it? And then give it back. She wants it called SC62B. Then there's no inclusion, it's attachment.
Can we continue?
It's 62B. Yes. Yeah, so you cancel MS11 something. Yeah. So MS154 becomes SC62B. Yes. Change it to SC62B. Chairman, are we on the same wavelength? No, I have to. Bring it back. Cancer has thrown us off.
We still do not, sorry, Council, I'm sorry, we still do not really understand what you want us to do. This letter has already, that is the letter dated 13th December 2007, has been admitted as MS 154.
154?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. I would have preferred it to be attached to the series SC62. Yes, for ease of reference, because it forms part of that series.
Very well. So you want it to be marked SC62B?
Yes.
Very well. Then
thank you.
That's logical enough. We'll make an order. All right. Order. Yeah. Letter. Thank you. This is the order. Letter reference PR/C102/ volume 57 dated 13th December 2007 from Secretary General, Office of the President, to the Minister of Finance, urgent request for transfer of funds to the Gambian Washington Embassy is hereby remarked SC62B instead of Exhibit MS 154.
Most obliged, Mr. Chairman. One more witness.
Okay. which one? You may leave, but in the meantime we rise and we'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Take you nani legi, I'm a told you to yalla now.